All right, good evening, everybody. We'll get started here in just a moment, but first, let's do a quick audio and visual check. So if you can hear me and if we're streaming in 1080p, just go ahead and leave a thumbs up in the chat, and we will get started here in just a moment. Thank you all for joining us. All right, well, it looks like we're good. So good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Walks and Wall Street. Today is Tuesday, January 9th, 2024. It's about 9 p.m. Eastern Time here live from New York City's Billionaires Row. We're right on the corner of East 57th Street, East 56th Street, and Madison Avenue. It is a crazy weather day. It's been pouring, raining almost the entire day in the city. The wind is supposed to get up to 30 miles an hour tonight, although it's not too bad right now. But there's just a crazy amount of rain. I mean, the streets, there's like rivers running down the streets. So hopefully this rain will move out of here by tomorrow morning. I checked the weather report, and it looks like this rain is going to be with us until about 4 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. And then it should move out of here. So we are going to have a very wet and rainy live stream, that's for sure. Now, a few things to talk about tonight. A lot of crazy things that actually went on. I'm not sure if anybody saw this, but I was sitting at my desk and I was, going through Twitter. I probably spend too much time on Twitter or X, but I look at a lot of stock market stuff on there. And I see this tweet from the Securities and Exchange Commission announcing that they have officially approved all Bitcoin ETFs across all major exchanges. Now, it turns out that the SEC actually got hacked today, and there was a fraudulent post that went out to, I think, 2.3 million people saw the post. And then Gary Gensler, who is the chairman of the SEC, came on his personal account, is sort of clearing the air. So there is no more news, okay? There is no updated news on the Bitcoin spot ETF. Apparently, the SEC had their Twitter account hacked today. Interesting stuff. Crazy times, for sure. It was a little bit of a volatile day on Wall Street. The market still remains to be in this correction phase after we had that, just monster rally across the board in major indices in December, right? Now, at the very start of December, the S&P went from about 4,500 bucks all the way rallying just shy of 300 points. It's about 48, 46. Now, we've come down some. Yesterday was a pretty big rally day on Wall Street. Today was a little bit of an indecision day. Now, there were specific sectors that performed quite well. Number one in particular, the cybersecurity sector performed very well. Quite ironically, due to the fact that the SEC was hacked today. If you take a look at CrowdStrike, ticker symbol CRWD, one of the leaders in cybersecurity, that was up 12 points, or about 4.78%. We'll take a look at Palo Alto Networks, which I believe is the leader, your true market leader in cybersecurity. That was also up about 11 bucks today, almost 4% on the day as the stock is corrected back to its 50-day moving average. Shifting gears here for a second, we'll take a look at the CBOE Volatility Index, or the VIX. The VIX sold off quite harshly yet again today. We're trading back below 13 on the VIX, currently at 1277. We sort of went over when is a good time to go long volatility, when is a good time to short vol. We talked a little bit about that yesterday. I do want to quickly check up on crude oil. Okay, so we'll look at light crude oil futures, ticker symbol CL. Crude is trading at $72 a barrel. We've pretty much gone sideways since December. We are trading below the 50-day moving average on crude. It seems as if all of the wars and instability in the Middle East aren't doing too much to impact the price of crude oil. If anything, the average gallon of gas in the United States hit a 2-year low, which is good, which is what we want to see, right? As we have inflation data coming out, I would say one of the largest expenses for the average American, number one, shelter costs, probably number two, energy. Everybody has to get around, the majority of Americans drive. So gas prices have actually come down quite substantially. If you think about where crude oil was going all the way back to March of 2022, we were trading at $130 a barrel on crude oil. We've been in about a year and a half bear market, trading at $72 a barrel for crude. We'll see if that changes. Last but not least, and then we'll get started here, everybody. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin is trading over $45,000, just a hair under 46,000, 45,920. Now, there was a little bit of an intraday spike in Bitcoin, obviously due to that false flag pre-approval for the Bitcoin spot ETF. But pretty much all the broad cryptocurrencies across the board are trading relatively well. Bitcoin is above its 50-day moving average. Ethereum is also above its 50-day. Now that we've talked about digital gold, let's actually look at the real thing. Gold currently is trading above $2,000 an ounce. At the time of recording this video, gold futures is at 2,031 bucks. We'll see. All right, everybody, just a quick announcement here. Last Thursday, okay, I want everybody to quickly check your email if you haven't checked it already. I sent out the first edition of the Behind the Street newsletter for 2023. So every other Thursday after the market closes, I send out to all of our Walks in Wall Street subscribers our newsletter, where we cover the US equity markets, we cover global macro, we cover fixed income, emerging markets, and so much more. So if you want to sign up to receive all of our equity research, stock market research for free, go ahead and scan the QR code on your screen and punch in your email, or type !news, NEWS, in the chat. and it will drop the link to our Substack. Now, last little announcement, if you have the Substack app downloaded, I activated a new feature about 2 hours ago. It's going to be a group chat for all of our subscribers on the Substack application, where we could all message, chat, hang out, specifically relating to the financial market. So there'll be real-time stock market updates, real-time real estate updates, monetary policy updates, all in our proprietary chat. If you just download the Substack application, it's free to join. I think it'll be cool for us to share real-time market data in that chat. All right, so everybody, I'm gonna go ahead and close up the laptop. I will say hello to everybody in the chat, and we will get started on this very rainy, nasty, and windy night in Manhattan. Thank you so much for joining. Give me a moment. All right, we have the umbrella, which is going to be much needed tonight. Oh my God. All right, let's see who we have in the chat. We're not going to head too far east and we're not going to head too far west. I'll give you guys a tip. If you're visiting Manhattan, okay, particularly in the winter when it's raining, the further east you go towards the water, the colder and windier it gets, and the further west you go, the colder and windier it gets. And if you know Lower Manhattan, particularly on Water Street, Wall Street, it's crazy, the wind tunnels there. So we're just gonna hang out local tonight, hopefully not get too wet, and have a chat about the markets. But once again, if you wanna subscribe to our free investing newsletter that's sent out every other Thursday after the market closes, just go ahead and scan the QR code on your screen or type !news, N-E-W-S. I see Andy says hello, Tom. Good to see you. Bond is here. James Bond, welcome. Zozo Bob from South Florida. It's good to see you. Madison 32 says hello, Tom. Hope all is well. My Grayscale Bitcoin Trust is doing very well. Do you have an opinion on the ETF situation? Yeah, we'll talk about that tonight. We'll definitely talk about that tonight for sure. It's good to see you, Madison 32. Brian Reed says, evening, sir. What's up, Brian? I see Eric Kaufman says, Tom, does the SEC have to investigate itself for volatility in Bitcoin? I know, talk about a crazy day, like a crazy, crazy day. I said it at the beginning of the live stream, but apparently the SEC was hacked. Their Twitter account was hacked today. I actually saw the tweet in real time. Let me just make sure my Wi-Fi is turned off here. Yeah, it is. We're good. You know, I actually saw the tweet in real time, and I couldn't believe it. Because usually the SEC wouldn't do like a blanket approval for all, you know, spot Bitcoin ETFs across the board. But I believed it. I'm not gonna lie. I believed it for a little bit. And I think it went out to 2.3 million people, by the way. So, you know, Gary Gensler, who is the chairman of the SEC, immediately jumped on his personal account, explaining to the American people and to the world that their Twitter account was compromised by a hacker. Now, it's funny. Well, it's not funny. I'll take that back. It's not funny. I'm just using that as an expression. But the reason why I said that, right, I'll say it's ironic because if you have read our previous, really 3 editions of the Behind the Street newsletter, right, I was talking about thematic investments, potential thematic investments for 2024. I'm not sure if you guys remember this. And my number one thematic idea for 2024 was cybersecurity. I said 2024, right? 2024 is obviously, it's an election year. Okay, we won't get too touchy on the politics. I know you guys hate that. But if you think for a second that there's not going to be an absolute I mean, skyrocket in cyber attacks, malicious actors trying to not only meddle in the elections, but to compromise government accounts, major Fortune 500, Global 2000 companies. I mean, it is going to be a year of cybercrime, unfortunately, right? And 9 days into the year, we have our first cyber hack, even though it wasn't really that malicious, right? I guess technically it was misleading investors. But yeah, I think for 2024, I think we're going to see more cybersecurity, cyber hacks going on. Hey, Jim is here. What's going on? I see Dan Zhang. Says, hey, Tom, thank you for streaming in the rain. Yeah, thank you for joining us. Yeah, I mean, it's been coming down all day in Manhattan. The only thing I'm happy about is it's not as windy as it was earlier in the day. It was crazy windy earlier in the day. It's just pouring raining, and the streets is like a river. You can kind of see, if you look at the crosswalk, there's a big puddle building up right at the Trump Tower here. Hey, Ralph's, it's raining here all day in the Bronx. Shannon says they need to do away with two-factor verification via SMS. There's a lot of SIM swaps these days. That is such a good point. I totally agree with you. The two-factor authentication via text message is so obsolete. It's no protection at all. If anything, it makes you more vulnerable. So I think that's good to talk about. If anybody has any of their bank accounts or proprietary accounts with two-factor authentication via text message, I would remove that immediately. Because what's been happening a lot is people have been calling up the phone company, pretending to be you, swapping your SIM card, and then once they have your SIM card, well, they don't need to know any of your passwords to your accounts. All they do is say, forgot password, they send you a verification text, and then they could change the passwords to all of your accounts. So that's a really good point. Very good point, by the way. All right, let me try to wipe the camera lens. We're going to be doing this a lot tonight, I bet. Justin S. says they are calling for 50-mile-an-hour winds in my area, so please be safe wherever you are. RPT says, good evening, Tom. What's up? Welcome to Billionaires Row. Right here on the corner of East 57th Street and 5th. We're standing directly outside the Tiffany building. Now, as we cross 5th Avenue, you can see the rain really pick up and the wind pick up too. Let's see if I could zoom out just a tad. So this is looking all the way down to Park Avenue. See, you can see, I told you guys before, 57th Street in particular is very, very windy. It's like a wind tunnel. So let's actually just take it safe and walk down 5th Avenue so it's not too crazy. Ethan G is coming to Miami. It's nice and warm. Now, apparently, I've been hearing the opposite. I've been hearing that Miami is not nice and warm right now. And next week, supposedly in Miami, it's going to be like a high of 60 degrees, which is crazy. So hopefully that'll change. And it's going to be a lot warmer because I will be flying back to South Florida Sunday night. Western Mass Dave says, man, I use two-factor on many sites. Should I not? So you should use two-factor authentication, but if you use two-factor where they're going to send you a text message, here's one way where you can make that a little bit more secure. I would call up the phone company and make sure they notate your account to where you have to be in the store in person to make any changes. Because what a lot of, bad actors will do is they'll call the phone company, right, pretend to be you, and request a SIM card change. And once your SIM card is changed, well, they essentially have your phone number and they can access everything. So just, you can notate your account to say that only make changes to my account if I'm in the store in person. You could do that. That's one way of getting around it. I mean, people have gotten compromised from SIM swapping. That's like the new trend in cybercrime. It's kind of crazy. Pedro is here. What's up? Now, speaking of cyber crime, right? We were talking about how the SEC's Twitter account or X account got hacked. But you know what sector in the market did really good today? The cybersecurity sector. So Palo Alto Networks did really good today. Stock rallied about 12 bucks. CrowdStrike, which is another big leader in cybersecurity, rallied. And that is my thematic investment for 2024. Right, election year, a lot of people are going to be meddling, trying to be malicious. So who knows? I don't know, what do you guys think? We were talking about thematic investments for 24. Any interesting ideas? This is the Peninsula Hotel here. Extremely beautiful facade as the rain's coming down. It's actually kind of peaceful. John B says I have to walk my dog and I only have, and I'm only a few miles away from where I am. Okay, cool. We'll stay warm. Maybe we'll run into each other. Jerry says, do you think the semiconductor run will keep going through 2024? I think if this AI boom is real, right, the artificial intelligence boom is real, then I think the next decade is going to be good for semiconductors, right? I think semiconductors is the new sort of digital gold, so to speak, because it's going to be the growth engine of the economy. I always compare it to the gold rush, right? So not everybody in the gold rush made a fortune, right? But the people who were selling the pickaxes and the shovels, they made a fortune. But not all the people mining for gold found gold. Does that make sense? So I guess the play with semiconductors is they are the people at the bottom of the mountain selling the shovels, selling the pickaxes to people that are going out there looking for gold. Now, are there going to be artificial intelligence, machine learning, autonomous driving startups that become the next unicorns and the next trillion-dollar companies over the next decade? For sure. Yeah, for sure. 100%. I think in my lifetime, there will be a brand new company. So a company not on the stock market right now. It's not even invented. Maybe it's an early Series A company right now that will grow into a $1 trillion AI business in my lifetime, right? But for every multi-billion-dollar AI business that's going to come about, there's going to be thousands of companies in the graveyard who tried to try to be entrepreneurial and didn't make it. So as you have all of these entrepreneurs trying to start AI businesses, tech companies, cloud computing, machine learning, all that, the growth factor or the engine or the fuel for that machine is going to be semiconductors, right? So I think they'll win regardless. So I don't know, that's kind of the way I think about it, is pure play semiconductor businesses are essentially selling the pickaxes and the shovels for the entrepreneurs to try to make something happen. All right, check this out, everybody. This is St. Thomas Church. Pretty cool. Ibrahim Azam says, I think I will be one of those entrepreneurs. I think so too. I think so too. Ibrahim, if you have an AI startup, send me your deck. Send me your deck. I'll look at it. Hey, Jan is here. What's up, Jan? The storm is raging here too, but we got snow instead of rain. Love your channel. Yeah, I wish we got snow. Now, even though snow in New York City can be a big pain, right? It's less of a pain than walking around in this, you know? Peter, what's up? Says, looks like it's a good night for ducks. Paul, Jonathan from Florida. Estelle is here. Hey, RB. Thanks for joining us. Let's actually cross the street here. See, the wind is picking up. Hey, Juan Carlos. Hey, Tom. I'm in New York City, the Upper East Side of Manhattan. Love the Upper East Side. You know, we were walking through the East Side of Manhattan, and we ventured a little bit into the Upper East Side yesterday on a stream. Saw some beautiful townhomes and things like that. Good to see you. John says NVIDIA. Well, the wind is crazy. And Taiwan Semiconductor, the top two. Yeah, you know, this reminds me, and this is actually a good sort of topic of discussion to talk about. So we sort of gave that analogy already, right? We gave the analogy that, you know, semiconductors are going to be the growth engine of the economy moving forward. And that semiconductor businesses are going to act kind of as the people selling the shovels and the pickaxes during the gold rush. But you know what else? And I wrote an article about this not too long ago. I'm just going to wait for the wind to die down a little bit. This is actually a pretty cool shot of Trump Tower. Trump Tower is the black building all the way in the distance. But you know, I wrote an article, I believe this was 3 months ago, okay? It was a piece we wrote in the Behind the Street newsletter that I send to everybody every other Thursday. And is anybody familiar with Dow Theory? Is anybody familiar with that? Well, if you're not, you can Google it. You can Google it, Dow Theory, or you could just read the article. Now, one of the components of Dow Theory was that if the Dow transports, right, or the Dow Jones Transportation Average is emerging from a bear market, yeah, the wind is cranking, is emerging from a bear market and breaks into a new high territory, that the general overall health of the market is deemed to be in a sustained up rally. I think nowadays we can substitute. I think we're gonna have to go around the block. It's just way too windy, the downstream here. We'll walk with the wind at our back. But I think nowadays you could substitute the semiconductor index, so the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index, or the SOX, ticker symbol SOXX, for the Dow transports. Because in my view, if the semiconductors are not in gear, and they're not trading above the 52-week, they're not trading at 52-week highs and above the 50-day moving average, it's very, very hard to conclude that the general health of the market is sustained, right? Because it's gonna take up such a big portion of the economy. Hey, Elias is here. What's up, Elias? Good to see you. Hey, Gene1649, thank you so much for your very generous $10 donation. So thanks for braving the night for the chat. Yeah, you know, it's not too bad, Gene. The only thing that's bad about it is the wind. I actually kind of like walking around in the rain, I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of peaceful, and I think New York City looks really beautiful in the rain. Hey, Juan Carlos says semiconductors is a very broad field. Do you see a particular type of semiconductor succeeding? Well, I would say your top two chipsets that go into crypto miners, chips that go into running data center, right? So for big data center, cloud computing, you could think like an Equinix or something like that. EVs, right? Semis that go into EVs, electric vehicles. I think all of probably those categories are going to be the driver. With your top companies, if I had to name top companies that address that, NVIDIA, gaming, cloud computing, even some of the companies that deal mainly with the design of chips. But I don't know, what are your thoughts? What do you see succeeding, particularly? Hey, Deborah, thank you so much for your very generous $15 donation. Thank you for being outside in the rain so we don't have to be. Thank you so much. Appreciate the support. Hopefully you're enjoying the stream here in the rain. Brian Reed says, do you plan to make it to San Francisco this year? I do. I do plan to make it to San Francisco this year, hopefully. I think San Francisco is a very good city. That's on sale right now, I think, in my opinion. Al Baker, what's up? All right, let me quickly showcase 53 West 53rd Street. You can see the pool. So this floor is where they have their indoor pool. Actually looks kind of cool. But there's also a lot of semis that go into, and chips that go into medical devices, right? Different medical technology and the like. It's so broad, such a wide variety. Hey, Timmy says it doesn't look like the day after tomorrow rain. That's when you have to worry for sure. Yeah, no day after tomorrow rain here, thank God. But it's just been a steady rain all day, which is a major problem for the city. Now, does anybody remember when we had something similar over the summer? The city gets a big problem if there's heavy duration in the rain, because our system is very, very old. And when the water runs off into the sewage, it overwhelms the treatment plants. They back up, they flood. I wouldn't be surprised if parts of Red Hook, Brooklyn, maybe downtown Brooklyn, parts of Queens are flooding tonight. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it's been non-stop like this pretty much all day. But if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We usually do these live streams every single day starting at 8:30 p.m. This is the halal guys. Now, you know what's another interesting sector that not a lot of people in the market are talking about? Hey, Scott, this is 12 inches of snow here today in Wisconsin. Whew. Man, yeah, if there was a foot of snow in New York City, it would be like the city would come to a screeching halt. Let's just say that. But you know what? And we talked about this before. However, I don't know what the TAM, the total addressable market is, and maybe it's not as big as I think. But does anybody notice how a lot of these education companies are actually acting very well right now? Particularly Duolingo. So I always thought, and this was to my ignorance, I always thought Duolingo was a Chinese company. I thought it was a Chinese educational tech company. I don't know why I thought that, but I did, to my ignorance. It's not. They're a Pittsburgh-based American company. And Duolingo's been acting very well. Now, what is the TAM of people wanting, to learn online, particularly learn a different language? I would say I'm either overestimating the market or severely underestimating. Because particularly, if you look at the situation we have going on right now in the United States, record amounts. Oh my God, we're getting soaked. All right, let's get under the scaffolding here so I can wipe the camera lens. Man, it is raining sideways. All right, give us a second. All right, how's the lens now? I think it should be clear for everybody, right? Oh, let me do this. I think I have a tissue in my bag. But anyway, if you look at the situation that's going on in the US right now, and even across Europe, right? There's so many immigrants coming to the United States, and in order for them to be successful here, which everybody coming here, right, regardless of if you agree how they come here or not, they all want to be successful in America. The main way that they're going to do that is if they're going to learn a language. And I think they will, and I think they're going to use these applications like Duolingo to do that. $20 a month, to learn English, to potentially get you a career that's going to pay you, $50,000, $60,000. I think that's a pretty good risk reward. Hey, AUS Fly Girl, appreciate your support. Thank you so much for your $20 donation. I appreciate it very much. Thank you for supporting the stream. Thank you for watching. AUS Fly Girl, thanks so much. This building is the Alliance Bernstein building. There's a very notable hedge fund in here called... I'm actually blanking on the name of the hedge fund. Look at all that rain coming down. Wild. Fortress Investments. I wanted to bring that up today because of obviously the Bitcoin news. Michael Novogratz, after he was a big partner at Goldman Sachs, he went over to work at Fortress, where he made a fortune, and now he's created his own company that acts as an onboarding ramp for institutional investors, family offices, to get exposure to Bitcoin, things like that. Hey, Steph UF says, I'm using Duolingo to learn Spanish right now. Hawaii says, I need to check Duolingo out. Good to see you, Hawaii. Welcome to a very rainy New York City tonight. You can't even see 432 Park in the distance. That's how cloudy it is today. John B. says SoftBank is a parent company of Fortress. Yeah, our good friend Masayoshi's son. Masa-san. Now, I have a lot of respect for Masa-san. I mean, if you want to talk about a crazy risk taker, right? I mean, someone who puts all the chips on the table, it's that guy, right? Now, performance has been hit or miss, but Masa-san kind of reminds me that you only really need to be right once, right? And that that saying really keeps me motivated and keeps me going. You know, if I'm having like a bad, week or a month, you just got to remind yourself that it only takes one, right? You only have to be right once to make a fortune. And Masa's son, I mean, think about how many investments blew up in that guy's face, right? Think about how much egg that guy has on his face, but he created this multi-mega billion-dollar conglomerate where he made a fortune too, right? So you only really need to be right once. That's sort of the saying I always say. I mean, think about, SoftBank took a huge bath on WeWork. Anybody remember WeWork with Adam Neumann that just filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy last year? I mean, Masa's son lost billions on Adam Neumann, right? Also, I'm not sure if anybody knew this, but SoftBank also bought, at the time, a major controlling stake in Sprint. Well, Sprint is no longer anymore. T-Mobile bought Sprint, or the two company merged, but it was pretty much, an acquisition, T-Mobile taking over Sprint. Sprint was in a very, very bad financial situation at the time, but yeah, you only really need to be right once in life. You could fail an unlimited amount of times, but you only need to be right once to set yourself up on a good trajectory. Hey, Tariq. Good to see you, Tariq. My friend Tariq Khan is here. What's up? TCAL's is MIT Open Courseware is a web-based publication of virtually all MIT course content. OCW is open and available, and it's permanent. Open to the world. Got it. Cool. Scott's capital markets activity looks like it's picking up after a soft year. I absolutely agree. Now, I think I mentioned this last night, but if I didn't, I'll mention it again. Now, the co-head of global investment banking at Goldman Sachs did an interview on Bloomberg, I think about 4 days ago, right? And he was talking about exactly that. He said it was so rough. 2022 was such a rough year, not only in M&A, not only in private equity, but in the public markets too, for IPOs. It was a very, very tough year. And I actually wrote about this in the newsletter. So if you guys want to read that piece, all you got to do is scan the QR code on your screen and punch in your email. But essentially what we talked about is how once the Federal Reserve started to raise interest rates, money got very, very expensive. And the private equity market froze up, the IPO market froze up, and there was not a lot of deal flow or deal activity happening on Wall Street. So if you think about earnings, right, at a major investment bank like Goldman Sachs, they get paid from fee income, right? So if there's no deals, if they're not taking any companies public, if there's no M&A activity on the street, well, they're not going to be able to bill for advisory fees. They're not going to be able to bill for equity underwriting fees. So the fee income on Wall Street dries up, so do earnings, right? The same thing with private equity. Again, if you scan that QR code and punch in your email and scroll down about a third of the way down the page, we talked about two companies in particular. Number one, we talked about private equity giant KKR, okay? Number two, we talked about Steven Schwartzman's company, Blackstone. And a lot of the times we can use stock prices in and of themselves as leading economic indicators, right? So throughout the tail end of 2023, KKR has rallied back to its previous high. Blackstone has rallied back to its previous high. Same thing with Goldman Sachs. So this may be a leading indicator that private equity markets may open back up and the IPO market may start to open. So I think Scott makes a good point. You know, if anybody works in investment banking or private equity, you've probably been through the ringer in 2022 and even most of 2023. I think this year is going to be a pretty good year for deal flow on the street. Oh, sorry about that. Some people say that they can't scan the QR code. If you cannot scan the QR code to get our free investing email, just type !news, NEWS in the chat, and the Nightbot will drop the link to our Substack. So apologize for that. I see NBA Elias is here. Says hello, Tom. Hope you had a good day. NBA Elias, welcome to Billionaires Row. I had a good day. Just a crazy wet and rainy day, unfortunately. But thanks for joining us. Valhalla is hanging there, Tom. It was 30 degrees in San Diego at 6 o'clock in the morning. Whoa, 30 degrees in San Diego, California. That doesn't sound right. Now, I feel as if this year has been a lot colder, or I should say the tail end of 2023 into 24 has been a lot colder and a lot more precipitation, is that the word? Than in years past, at least in my opinion. All right, let me get this QR code out of the way. Apologize. Hey, Storm Rider says it was 0 degrees in Denver this morning. Yikes. Not fun. Not fun at all. Sharon is here. Good to see you. Welcome. Maria says, I bet you won't see any rats tonight. Yeah, hopefully not. You know, although I think it's been over 700 days since we've had more than 1 inch of snow in New York City. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's true. Johnny says, Tom, we're having a cold spell here in SoCal. It was 30 degrees in San Diego. Whew. That is nuts. All right, everybody, we have now officially walked directly down New York City's Billionaires Row. Now, this is the skinniest residential apartment building anywhere in the world. This is Steinway Tower, and it's so tall that you can't even see the top of the building. The building is way taller than this, but it's quite literally inside the clouds. I think these people have the right idea. Hanging out, dining, getting a drink, while I'm out here getting soaking wet. I want to take you by the Russian tea room though. Let's quickly go by the Russian tea room. Yeah, I bet even Central Park Tower is probably going to look like it's disappearing into the air as well. All right, everybody, this is the famous Russian tea room right here. Oh man, you can really see the wind picking up now. Look at that. If you look really closely on the street, you can kind of see the wind raining sideways. The wind is pushing the rain. All right, let's try to dry you guys off here. Hey, Danny. Thank you so much, Danny, for your $10 donation. We appreciate it. Thank you for your support. Now this is 157. So 157 West 57th Street. This was the first building ever constructed on New York City's Billionaires Row. Now you'll notice here with the scaffolding, this is the Park Hyatt, New York. This is one of the most luxurious hotels in New York City, and it shares all of the amenities with 157. So if you own a condominium or you rent an apartment here, you go in these doors. But if you want to stay at the luxurious hotel, stay right there. Let's see if we can see the top. This is a pretty cool looking building too. Now the developer on this property is Extel, E-X-T-E-L-L, or E-X-T-E-L. The CEO and founder of Extel is Gary Burnett, and he also one-upped himself and did a bigger and better job by building this massive behemoth here, Central Park Tower. Now, earlier in 2023, the top triplex, so the top 3 floors of Central Park Tower, was on the market for $250 million, $250 million. But the price was since reduced. I think the price was reduced to about $195 million, I believe. So a little bit of a discount there for anybody who's interested. Hey, listless receptionist, thank you so much for your 5 CAD donation. I appreciate it very much. Thank you so much for your support. Appreciate it very much. Now, if you want to see a cool listing that just sold, if you go to Street Easy and if you look at 157 West 57th Street, the entire 83rd floor of the building was on the market for about $35 million. Now, it went under contract, sold and closed for $31 million. Not a bad deal. And the broker on that deal was Noble Black from Douglas Elliman. He actually sits a few cubicles down from us here at the Kirsten Jordan team. Noble Black is one of the best brokers in New York City, if not the world. All right, let's get under the scaffolding here. And I'll give you a little bit better look at 157. And you're right across the street from Carnegie Hall. Look at that, isn't that a cool shot? Look at that, amazing. Hey, someone says, hey Tom, first time viewer, you seem knowledgeable. Is 18% APR on a car loan bad? My payment is $1,200 a month. That seems high, yeah, that seems high. But I don't own a car, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, man, for an auto loan, that seems pretty high, right? Am I reading that right? 18%? It seems high. But thank you so much for watching. We appreciate you joining us. And a $1,200 a month car note, yeah, that seems high. Hold on, let me make sure I'm reading that right. $1,200 a month? My payment is $1,200. Dude, that's a mortgage payment. Yeah, maybe you have like a G-Wagon or something. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I had to do a quick double take on that. Man, 19%, that's like a credit card. That's like, yeah, it's like a credit card, my friend. You know, although, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal that said an increasing number of new car notes are now over $1,000 a month. Now you can't notice it because we're walking against the wind. When I turn the camera around, the wind is blasting down 57th Street. Now right across the street here is Central Park Tower. I would say arguably this is the most luxurious building in New York City. You can barely see the top of that one either. But if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We usually do these streams every single day starting at 8:30. Yeah, I know, NBA Elias, we were talking about that a little bit before. There was a hack. The Securities and Exchange Commission Twitter account got hacked today, and they posted a tweet posing as Gary Gensler, saying that they are going to approve all Bitcoin spot ETFs, which obviously is ridiculous, but it honestly got me a little bit, so I actually believed it for the first 20 minutes. You know, we're looking directly up Broadway to Trump International Hotel and Tower. Look at that. It's an awesome hotel. If you're looking to stay at a really nice hotel, ooh, look at that. Man, that's like a lake. I feel bad. It's like a lake here. Hey, Monad, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, Bitcoin actually rallied a little bit on that news, but then came right back down. It's funny because, you know, I said one of my biggest thematic investments for 2024 is cybersecurity companies, mainly because I'm expecting a huge uptick in cybercrime because of the election. And yeah, we're definitely off with a bang with the hacking of the Securities and Exchange Commission Twitter account. This is a cool shot, looking directly up Broadway. Dennis Reynolds says the sell-off of high-flying tech companies already appears over. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we chop around here and kind of, you know, give some back. Oh man, now it's really coming down. But I saw someone make a comment about Intel and how they're going to be building new factories and plants in the United States. And, you know, it's important to, I understand that we need to kind of ignore the presidential election to not get distracted by all the media propaganda. But it is important to quickly take a look at, you know, the proposed spending plans by, you know, the current administration and the potentially new administration coming in, right? Because to that commenter's point, or that chatter's point, he mentioned that Intel and a lot of these semiconductor companies are going to be building plants in the United States. Well, that is due to the Chips and Science Act that was passed, I believe, on August 9th, signed into law on October 9th by President Joe Biden. And that is fiscal stimulus, right? So you have monetary stimulus or monetary policy, which is set by the Federal Reserve. And then you have fiscal policy, which is set by our illustrious government, right? So generally speaking, the more money that they pour into this economy, there's no wonder why semiconductors did so well last year. Right, at one point in 2023, semiconductors were up 65% on the year. Now, since that Chips and Science Act was passed on October 9th, the semiconductor index, ticker symbol SOXX, is up 33%. If you want to see a visual of that, that's one of the main things I wrote about in our free financial newsletter that I sent out last Thursday. So if you want to read that, we talked about, monetary policy and fiscal policy going into the presidential election year, right? Because it's very important. Which sectors in the economy is that going to drive? If you want to read that, just go ahead and scan the QR code on your screen and just punch in your email. And every other Thursday, you get all of our equity research for free. And that was a main topic of conversation we talked about in the last newsletter. It's a very good comment. It's important to pay attention to fiscal policy as well as monetary policy. Now, not to get too political, but generally speaking, the stock market tends to perform better under a Democrat. Generally speaking, probably you could infer that Democrats spend more money, right, on social things. That could be a thesis there. The only thing I ask, don't put those comments in the chat about, which stocks are good to buy and sell. It's better for you to learn, a systematic framework for investing, so you can be self-sufficient, right? You shouldn't, ask. And I'm not trying to be mean, but it's important, right? Because that's not a sustainable plan long term, right? Just taking stock tips, not that good of a plan. I would say put more focus on learning, not asking for tips. And the reason why I say that is, if you think about the greatest investors of all time, I always like to use the example of Stan Druckenmiller. Now, Stan Druckenmiller is only right about 40% of the time, right? So when you see him on CNBC, Bloomberg, all of the major financial media channels, and he's talking about a specific stock or about a specific sector, he's going to be wrong about 40% of the time. He's only right about 40% of the time. Now, so why is he a multi-billionaire and the greatest of all time? Well, he knows how to manage his risk and create himself a margin of safety, right? And I think that's the great thing about the investment business, is because you could be wrong the majority of the time and still make a fortune, right? So I think that's the problem with stock tips, because if you're even listening to the best people say, oh, I'm buying this stock, I'm in this stock, they already have mapped out the reason why they bought it, the earnings projections, the expectations, the whisper number on the street, and a scenario to exit that position should the position move against them, right? People that are just watching videos and taking stock tips, they don't have an exit strategy. What if there's a fundamental change at the company? What if, the board of directors oust the CEO? Now you have a new CEO, right? Do you know anything about the CEO? I mean, so there's a lot of moving parts in that. Now, if you don't want to be in the business of picking stocks, you could just buy a simple index fund, right? There's a really good book. It's called The Little Book of Common Sense Investing by Jack Bogle. You know, the S&P 500 was up 24% last year. You know, the vast majority of Americans are usually in some kind of index fund that tracks the S&P. That's not bad. 24%. I mean, you know, on average, the S&P returns 8 or 9% a year. You know, compound that over your working lifetime. That's a fortune. It's a lot. It's a lot of money. All right, where are we now, guys? This is West 53rd Street and 8th Avenue. I'll give you another example about that. Like, so Bill Ackman last year put on this massive position, massive position in Netflix, right? Now, how many people do you think went out and bought Netflix after Bill Ackman and Pershing Square made that purchase? Probably a handful of people did that, a couple people. He owned it for less than a week because the earnings report came out, it was terrible, and he pulled the plug on the position and blew out the entire position, right? So they have exit strategies. They kind of know to say, all right, we are going to let our winners ride, and if a company is acting like a dog or a stock is acting like a dog, we are going to take it out back behind the shed and shoot it, right? Kill it, get it out of the portfolio. You can kind of think about your portfolio, you know, every quarter. You know, if you own individual stocks, you should be trimming the ones that are not performing and adding to the ones that are performing. It's kind of like if you have a garden, right? If you walk into your garden, you're not going to rip out all the beautiful flowers, right? You want the beautiful flowers to grow and blossom and bloom even more. You're going to pick all the weeds, right? But what many people do is they'll have a stock that's up 20%. They're like, oh my God, I made 20%. And they'll blow the position out. But they'll have stocks that are down 40% and they'll hold them for years waiting for them to come back, right? It's the exact opposite of what you should do. You should think about, you know, the investment business like a garden. You want all the vegetables to grow, you want all the beautiful flowers to grow, and you want to get the weeds out of there, right? Hey, Esmeralda, good to see you. Long time no see. Thanks so much for joining us. Hope you're doing well. It's been a minute. Yeah, it's been a minute. I'm glad you're here. All right, let's take a little bit of a detour down one of the side streets. Hey, Madison 32 says, Tom, do you know of Farina, 450 6th Avenue, condo? I don't. Let me take a screenshot of that. I'll take a screenshot of that. I'm sure I've seen it if I could see a picture of it, but let me check it out. Steve R says, great analogy with the garden and investing. Keep pruning. Yeah, and you know, a lot of, and that's not my analogy, by the way. I totally ripped that off from my boss, my good friend, who's a very successful money manager. And he's like, human psychology, you know, always leads you to do the wrong thing in the market. Because when you buy a stock, right, and it goes down 8%, you're like, it'll come back. It'll come back. But then the next day it's down 10%. You're like, it's all right. I mean, I'm in it for the long term anyway. You know, I'm in this stock for the long term. I'm a long-term investor. Nothing to worry about. I'm only down 10%. I'm planning to hold it 5 years. Well, then the stock's down 20. And then you're like, it'll come back. Yeah, it'll come back. Next thing you know, it's down 60%. And now you're really getting scared. And that's when most people sell and realize the loss. And then they say, the market's a scam. It's not for me. you know, this is just too crazy. But when they buy a stock and it goes up 20%, they get all giddy and they're like, oh my God, oh my gosh, this is great. I'm gonna lock in this profit. But, you know, winners beget winners, right? Winners beget winners. I mean, think about, you know, in the year, 2004. Let's say you bought Apple stock in 2004 and it was up 20%. You're like, oh, I'm gonna sell Apple, right? Well, look where it is now. I mean, if you bought Apple in 2004 and you kept laddering into the position, now a lot easier said than done, right? This is just, we're talking on a live stream, walking around New York City in the pouring rain, but I think the point still stands. You kind of want to feed your winners, funnel cash into your winners. If I'm not good at basketball, but I think Steph Curry is one of the greatest three-point shooters of all time, right? Now, if I'm on the court and I give the ball to Steph Curry and he drains a three, well, the next time I run down the court, I'm probably going to feed him the ball. I'm not going to give it to some other guy who's got a hot hand. So you're going to keep feeding the hot player who has the hot hand because they're more likely to keep that momentum and make the next shot. I'm not going to rip the ball away from Steph Curry and put him on the bench after he just hit 4 threes back to back to back. That's crazy. I'm going to keep him in the game and feed him the ball, right? Whew, man, anyway. All right, everybody, this is Times Square North. Right here, the Stardust Diner, which I'm not a huge fan of. I'm trying to use the umbrella to block some of the wind. But if you're all enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We do these live streams almost every day, talking about the financial markets, walking around the city and having a good chat with the team here. We'd love to have you a part of that if you'd like. Oh my gosh, yeah. NBA Elias says, imagine if the weather had been like this on New Year's Eve. Hell on earth. But you know what? If the weather was like this on New Year's Eve, there would still be people lined up to see the ball drop, to be honest. And look, I get that. I respect that. I think I need to plug in my phone. Let me check the battery life. Hey, War Chiefs is longtime lurker, just subscribed 10 minutes ago. Thanks so much for joining us. All right, everybody. We're going to take a quick 5-minute intermission. Plug in the phone. Hey, Lori Crockett Owens, what's up? All right, let's try to get out of Times Square because it appears that the wind is really picking up in Times Square. It wasn't too bad where we were. Hey, Atomic Punk NYC. Good to see you. left right outside of the Morgan Stanley. And then we'll head by. Just the umbrella. Hey, Padilla, thank you so much for your generous $5 donation. Appreciate it. Thanks so much for your support. This is actually a really cool view. If there was like a live camera that just looked this way, it's a pretty cool scene in the rain in New York. With all the lights, it's not bad. Now, for whatever reason, the picture quality I think looks better. Oof. Gotta block the wind. I think we'll be forced to walk uptown because so we have the wind at our back. I don't think I'll be able to walk downtown because it's just, I don't think you guys are gonna be able to see anything. So we'll head uptown. See, the wind's not bad uptown because the wind is at my back, but if I'm walking downtown, it's just gonna be impossible to walk. We'll check out the Ed Sullivan Theater and a very interesting construction site that's just going to pop up here in a moment. Now, earlier in the live stream, we talked about the development company Extel, who did Central Park Tower as well as 157. Well, they're about to set foot on another project here very soon. So we're going to walk up Broadway and check that out. It's the old location of Bad Boy Entertainment. So I'm sure all of you are familiar with Sean Combs, or P. Diddy, his stage name. The building right across from the Ed Sullivan Theater has been vacant for so long. I mean, I remember as a little kid, like 8 years old, 10 years old, walking past it, and it was just abandoned then. So I believe Extel bought it and it's set for demolition. And I'm actually not too sure what they're going to build. Knowing Extel, it's probably going to be ultra luxury condominiums. I mean, it's an amazing location. You couldn't get a better location than this. Right across from the Ed Sullivan Theater, who's now home to the Colbert Report. Hey, Melissa 2087, what's up? Thanks so much for joining us. Good to see you. Troy Atman, good to see you. Props to Tom for streaming in these conditions. Thank you so much. Hopefully you're having a good day. Look at this outdoor dining shed here. It's like a bus. Looks new, I've never seen it. Now, out of curiosity, a little bit off topic here, sort of moving away from the financial topics for a second. Has anybody seen the Colbert Show live, or let's say Seth Meyers, Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, any of the late night talk show hosts? Has anybody gone to a live recording of any of them? And if you have, how was it? Would you recommend it? I've never been. I live in the city and I've never been to one. Hey, Matthew says, I heard it's supposed to rain until tomorrow afternoon. Whew. The city's gonna be totally flooded out. Wow, Deborah says you've seen Colbert live. How was it? Hey, Carl Roth from Canada, it's good to see you. This is Tom, good evening. Imagine all the rain. Yeah, all this rain used to be snow. We got that, for sure. I wish it was a little bit colder and it could be snow here. It'd be a lot more pleasant to walk around in, that's for sure. Michael J says, I've been to Jimmy Fallon when he had the late night in 2011 3 times. Wow. How was that? Was it a fun time? Chuck says, I've been to Gutfeld and Hannity. Oh. Now Gutfeld is Greg Gutfeld, right? Greg Gutfeld, I think. He now has that Fox News show at night. It's like a comedy. Now, speaking of Hannity, he is no longer reporting from New York City. Not that I watched his show anyway. Not for political reasons, just because I don't watch Fox News. Simple as that. But I think he has now left New York City and he is now in Florida. Wow, somebody saw Letterman twice. Now that's something you will always remember for sure. Chuck Rumford says, yeah, Fox News, it's cold in the studio. Now, I believe they keep it cold for a reason, right? Because you have all those lights on you. And when you get your makeup done to go on, live TV, and you're baking under those lights, they don't want the host to be sweating, maybe. I don't know. I'd like to see one just for the hell of it, right? Here it is, the Ed Sullivan Theater. Cape Cod Sarah says, why don't you watch Fox News? I don't have cable. I don't have cable TV. I think a lot of Gen Z and millennials would probably say the same. I think that would be interesting because this is quite the appropriate segue into our next conversation. Who here, still has cable television? Or is everybody now transitioned generally to a streaming service or a streaming platform? I think the streaming services totally destroyed the traditional cable television networks. I think if it wasn't for Fox News and CNN, there would be literally no reason to have cable, in my view. Everybody says streaming. Vinny says we have Fios. Joel PM says YouTube only. Wendy says I have Sling TV. Got it. Now, the reason why I ask, and I'm not sure if you guys saw my post today on Twitter. If you haven't, you could follow @WalksWallStreet. And I posted something because we got some breaking news, okay? Now, does anybody remember about 4 months ago? It may have been over 4 months ago. I actually don't know when it was. This was right when Fox News fired Tucker Carlson and CNN fired Don Lemon. Now, there was a lot of talk in the media about how this is the end for the career of Don Lemon and Tucker Carlson. I couldn't have disagreed with that more. If anything, in my opinion, I believe that the cable news channels such as CNN and Fox News were holding Don Lemon and Tucker Carlson back. And that if they went out on their own and created their own networks, not only would they do super well, but my opinion is that they would mint themselves billionaires in their lifetime. Now, I think that prediction is going to come true because as of today, Don Lemon announced officially he is going to be creating his own show, the Don Lemon Show, and bringing it to X. Did anybody see that? So he's partnering with Elon Musk. He's going out on his own. And I have a feeling that, and again, regardless of political opinion, I actually couldn't disagree more with the majority of stuff, Don Lemon says, but I think he's a good journalist, and I think he's a good personality, and I think that CNN was holding him back, and I think he is going to create a media empire, and in our lifetime, he is going to be worth $1 billion. Same with Tucker Carlson. It doesn't matter, politics aside, I truly believe people have a distrust of mainstream media, right? Many people interpret people in mainstream media as talking heads. So as you have more independent journalists and notable journalists that used to work for CNN, Fox News, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, right? As you have a lot of these journalists branching off and doing their own stuff, that's going to put tons of pressure on mainstream media, right? I think independent journalism is the future. I think, Tucker Carlson's show on X is just incredibly popular, and I think that the new Don Lemon show is going to be even more popular, in my view. I don't know, what do you guys think? Do you think that the independent media revolution is going to have staying power? I think so. I mean, you know who came up on my radar not too long ago? Chris Cuomo. He has his own thing, and he announced that he's starting his own Substack. So there again, you have these powerhouse former media, faces now going out and doing their own thing, and that's not only positive news for them, but I think it's positive news for everybody. And I'll tell you why. Because you've taken the barrier to entry and you've literally made it zero. You don't have to go to the journalism schools anymore. You don't have to have all the fancy schmancy degrees. The only thing you need to have is some determination, consistency to put out content, and an internet connection. Right? Anybody in the world right now could create a Substack and make themselves an independent journalist covering. You don't have to go get, these, multi, six-figure journalism degrees and then try to, kiss ass all the way up the corporate ladder at Fox News or CNN. You could essentially put the screws to these people and do it yourself, which is really good news. I think it's very good news for free speech, and I think it's very good news for entrepreneurs in general. So all right, we are back to West 56th Street. We're going to make a right and head back to the east side where the office is. You can kind of see the water pooling up here. Look at that. Hey, Ken Brockton, what's up? NBA Elias says, but who will have time to watch the individual media saturation channels? That's a good point. I'm going to try to read some more comments.
Very good, very good.
Ken Brockton says TBD, Tucker and Cuomo are nowhere near as influential as they were in mainstream media. Interesting. So you're saying they're less relevant now and will continue to be less relevant now than from when they were on mainstream media? Interesting. I don't know. I think I'm going to take the other side of that trade. I think it's going to be, hey, thanks. I think they're going to become more powerful in their own right. It's good to get out of the rain. We're walking right under Carnegie Hall now and head back to the east side of Manhattan. Dan Zhang says, Tom, this time that I might disagree with you with Tucker Carlson. He could be definitely a billionaire, but Don Lemon and Cuomo kind of ruined their reputations at CNN. Maybe. I don't really see it that way. I more see it as sort of the cuffs are off, right? The handcuffs are off. Now, CNN and Fox News is never going to admit that they kind of censor what the host can and can't say. But obviously, I mean, we've all worked in corporate America, right? I mean, we could just be real. Everybody here, with the, with maybe a few exceptions, we've all worked in corporate America, right? Does your boss, does the word come from the top down, and you kind of got to beat around the bush what you can and can't say, or else you're going to get a slap on the wrist, right? Advertisers could get mad, something like that. I feel more of this change as now these hosts can really let their journalistic flair evolve and grow in the way that they want, right? Because regardless if you're on the right or the left, you can't deny that Don Lemon is a talented journalist. You can't deny that Tucker Carlson is a talented journalist. They are, right? They wouldn't have gotten their positions if they weren't talented, right? They're very good communicators. They're very good interlocutors. They're very good. Now that the handcuffs are off, they'll be able to put all of their efforts into what they really believe. Is sort of the thesis that I have, which I think is good. But I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? I think it'll be good for Twitter, or X. Because if you think about it like a talent pool, right? Platforms want to attract talent. It's CNN and Fox News, they call them the talent. Like, quite literally, they call these people the talent because it'll drive viewership. So if X now they signed Don Lemon, right? Massive talent. They have Tucker Carlson hosting on X, massive talent. You don't have to agree with their political takes. I'm more sort of thinking about it from a growth perspective of these companies and kind of the decline of traditional media. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I think that's one thing we could all agree on. I think it'll be very interesting to see how it plays out. Hey Jojo, thank you so much for your very generous $5 donation. Says, I'm the opposite on this. A few years ago, from now, government will crack down on independent news. Maria wants to know if you have rain boots on. I do not have rain boots on. Unfortunately, I don't have rain boots on. I probably ruined these shoes. That's all right. I just throw them in the dryer. No worries. But maybe this will bring about a more overarching push for censorship, perhaps. Who knows? All right, let me try to read a few more chats now that we're out of the rain. Hey, Ken Brockton, what's up? Problem is the older / core audience isn't going to watch them stream. and their brands weren't resonating younger watchers on cable. Interesting, maybe. Maybe. All right, I gotta get back to the office. Look, it'll definitely be interesting to see how this plays out. I think the number one thing we could all agree on is that technology disrupts. And with the emergence of social media platforms like X, YouTube, Facebook, even Substack, right? There's so many huge creators. I mean, think about all of the major journalists that were, you know, some of the most well-recognized journalists at the New York Times, Wall Street Journal. They're like, yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm gonna go make $3-4 million a year by writing on Substack and publishing my own stuff. I mean, that is very disruptive. You didn't have that 20 years ago, right? So with these platforms, it's really disrupting media, right? The way we consume media, where we consume media, advertising, sales, everything. It'll be interesting to see what the next decade brings about. But that was another good point. I think it was MBA Elias said, if everybody is independent and has their own shows, channels, streams, whatnot, you know, the competition for attention is really at an all-time high, right? So who's going to have the time to consume 50 million different shows? And I think the only rebuttal that I have, I forget who the very famous VC was, but he says, if you think the market is too small, it's probably 10 times bigger than what you think the max is. Right? I mean, think about how many YouTube, you know, broadcast shows are. I probably subscribe to well over 100 of them. You know, I'll check in on them here and there. You know, I know about them. Do I watch the full 2-hour show or every segment? No, but I'll consume a lot of it. I don't know. It's interesting. It's really interesting. Hey Peter, what's up? Says there are several walking around NYC YouTube channels, so your audience is bifurcated. Low barriers to entry cause too small an audience. Sorry, I'm losing your comment. Cause too small an audience and difficult to make money. You need a special niche. I don't know. I think that's a very limiting belief. I think you're underestimating just how large the market is out there. I mean, there's no shortage, right? At all. I mean, particularly in media. I mean, my God, it's huge. The market is huge. You know, I think about it like this. I want, and do this exercise. It's a good exercise to do. You know, just walk down the street of Manhattan or whatever city you're in tomorrow, right? I don't know what city you live in. Maybe you live in a small town. I don't know. Just walk down the street and I want you to physically count 20 people. Like when you pass a person, count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you know, and count up to 20. And really focus on it. And one of the things that you're going to realize is, holy crap, 20 people is a, you know, SHIT load of people, right? If you physically have 20 people standing in front of you, holy crap, that is a lot of people, all right? So the market, let's say if, you know, just 500 people consume your content a month, 500 people is an insane amount of people, guys, right? I think I think like numbers have kind of dehumanized and desensitized and made people a little bit pessimistic. But when you think about, 50 people, let's say if 50 people read your research, let's say if 50 people watch your show, let's say if 50 people, buy a product or a service, that is a huge amount of people. So, I think the market, in anything you do, I mean, maybe you want to start up an e-commerce store, an ice cream shop, or you want to have, a consulting company, or you want to start a software business, or, the opportunities are endless. You only really need, 1,000 true people to interact with you as business owners. I mean, the opportunity is huge, huge. I mean, look at some of the revenues that Salesforce are doing, annually reoccurring, right? These are multi-billion-dollar businesses, 30% gross margins, and they continue to grow. They continue to compound out their revenue every quarter. It's insane. I mean, the opportunity is insane. I'm actually getting all jacked up thinking about it. I have to go back to the office and make a couple calls here at midnight. Hey, Toad, thank you so much for your $5 donation. So I have to hop on the bus to downtown and count people. Yeah, it's a good exercise. Just physically count out 20 people, and you'll be like, wow, this is a massive amount of people. Think about back to your college days when you had to give a presentation in front of a class of 50 people, right? All right, everybody. I think this was fun. This was a fun stream. New York City looks very cool in the rain. I want to thank all of you for joining us. Thank you all for coming. If you enjoyed the live stream, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. If you want to subscribe and read all of our equity research for free, we send out a free investing newsletter every other Thursday after the market closes. We cover US equities, global macro, fixed income. Go ahead and scan the QR code on your screen and punch in your email. And again, every other Thursday, you will be signed up to receive our free research article. All right, Hawaii, take care. NBA Elias, Lynn, Richard Vogel, all of our moderators, God bless. Sharon, Western Mass, Dave, appreciate it. Alfonso, Gary Carpenter, thank you for coming out. Left-handed, Abdullah, Glenn Daly, Teresa Diaz, Sabrina Fair. Guys, stay warm, stay dry, and we will see you all tomorrow. Madison 32, I appreciate your support. Thank you so much for your $10 donation. Dusty Cole, Chris B, Jadelson, Maria, always a bull market somewhere. You just need to know where to look. Take care. Bye, guys.